Yeah, what is good, guys? Yet again, another interesting day in the markets. You had traps in both directions. You had stocks running like crazy, which we made a killing on day trading in the Discord. And yeah, we had a crazy rally at the end of the day, which possibly could change the outcome of what's coming in the next few days. So make sure to watch this whole video because you know we're at a pretty big pivot point, and I'm gonna show you what can be the outcome of this stuff. So make sure to show the video some love, subscribe so you always know what's coming. And on that note, let's just take a look at the charts. So today, you had a massive run up pre-market. All the gains from shorting back here yesterday pretty much evaporated. But right at the beginning, you went into a bearish reversal pattern, that rising wedge, which we played in the Discord, and you know, I was doing my Elliott wave. I called out the bottom here. I called this whole move down, and then I called for this move up to. At first, I said like 375, and it just kept going, which I did not expect. And that's what we're gonna talk about because this move into the end of the day could change things. So yeah, stick around for the whole thing because this thing could go flying if it. You'll see what I'm talking about. So here's that rising wedge. In my video yesterday, I said probably gonna go down. We had that trap in the morning. We shook out bears from yesterday. At the end of the day, we trapped them by running right it open and then falling. Then we trapped bears. So it's incredibly volatile. It's crazy to watch because it's not necessarily unusual, but it's getting more and more and more volatile, pretty much every day. Like, uh, just it's crazy. Uh, and if you trade in this, you're well aware. So you had that lower gap. We were heading lower, and we breached these important supports. But this is where we trapped all the bears, right around here. I got tricked out as well, and we just slingshotted all the way back up to the top of the gap, which I mentioned in my previous video. It's going to be acting as resistance, and we also found resistance at the bottom of this wedge, and it's at an area. It's at a prime rejection area where there's a lot of resistance right here. You have that gap. You have this, which seems to be a relevant area, which is the top of that gap, and you're still in the gap. You got rejected at it towards the end of the day. Going into after hours too, but that's not really what I'm looking at. It's more just like, where is this thing gonna go tomorrow? Because it's at a pivotal area. If you break up, you're gonna go up, and if you get rejected, you're gonna see more volatility. But you're at a breaking point where there's a lot of shorts. There's a lot of shorts right around this area, and if you break out of this area, these shorts are gonna start going underwater. They're gonna start losing money, and they're gonna start cutting their positions from covering. That's actually what happened going into the end of the day. There was pretty low volume, and you just kept going, which is a signal that this was all from covering, from people getting trapped under here, because we breached an important support and we just slingshotted somehow. So that was very interesting to watch. But yeah, if you break this area, you could see some squeezing, probably into this gap. I would assume you're showing that strength on the daily and weekly, which I've been talking about in those previous videos. So it's a tricky spot. Really can go both ways here, and I think you're gonna see that tomorrow and the next day. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But right now, you just follow the gaps. It's gonna fill either this one or this one first. So it's gonna fill one of these. So if you're in the Discord and you've been in there, you've heard about my gap algorithms, and I came up with that magnet gap algorithm where we have a main gap and gaps, there are gaps below it, and it prioritizes one of these gaps, which is either the highest one or the lowest one, and in order to fill it, it has to have an adequate setup. And to have that adequate setup, it has to fill all gaps below it or above it before filling that main gap. And so I think this may be the main gap, which may take a while to fill because it has to get rid of all of these before having that adequate setup. But yeah, it's such a tricky spot. It really seems like a 50-50, and it's up to tomorrow. You have the bearish divergences on those medium time frames, like the 2 hour. Let me just put them up so you can see them. In my previous video, I talked about that. I was thinking today would be a red day, and we dropped out at the gate pretty hard, but we rebounded right back up. So I really was not expecting that much of a rebound, but it does make sense when you look back at it. Testing this trend line, if you break through it, you break through that rising wedge. It looks like I'm going to be heading towards this gap. Maybe you get rejected there too. It's a crazy area, but here are your divergences. On the 30-minute, you have the MACD going much lower, while it's flat and even going up a little. And same thing on the 1 hour. The 1 hour going down slightly, while the price is just going up. And it's doing this floating again, which we saw back up here. Broke out of a rising wedge and consolidated. And if you consolidate out of a rising wedge just staying flat, that leans towards a bearish bias. So if we see this consolidate in this area, it's going to look even more bearish. But it's not the same as this area where I was very heavily bearish, because as I've been saying, we're near a macro bottom. So maybe that lower gap never gets filled, but there's a lot of things to consider. This is a big area, a lot of gaps, a lot of resistances, a lot of supports, a lot of trend lines. So it's bouncing everywhere like crazy, and I really don't know what it's gonna be doing, because that move into the end of the day kind of switched up everything. It might negate those medium-term divergences. So, yeah, those are really the only things I'm watching for now. The bottom of that rising wedge, which if we break through this, I think you're filling that top gap, or at least going towards it, because I don't know if it'll fill. And yeah, it's tricky, I'm telling you. But it doesn't hurt to sit out until you see clear direction. But the main point I'm trying to stress is we're near a macro bottom, and I'm positioned for both directions. I'm long and short, so if it drops, fills that gap, I saw that short position, I still have my long position for when it rebounds, and vice versa. So you just got to be able to adjust to whichever way this plays out. So yeah, and I almost forgot to mention that inverse head and shoulders I mentioned. Yeah, this is actually pretty important. That inverse head and shoulders I put out in yesterday's video. However I drew that out, this, whatever it was, if this breaks the neckline, which is right here, as you can see, this is kind of like, it's trying to get above this thing. If it gets above it, I think it's going to fly and squeeze some shorts out, because there's a lot of energy down here. So adjust accordingly. I think we'll see it tomorrow. If we break this area, this bottom trend line wedge, this area, the top of that gap, and we hold it, it might continue up, and then vice versa. If you get back underneath it and you stay under it, then we're probably breaking out of this wedge here. So we'll see how tomorrow goes. I don't really have anything else to say. We're just gonna have to play it accordingly. So that's where I'm gonna leave this video. Make sure to show it some love, subscribe, show so you're always prepared for what's coming next. And make sure to check out the Discord, which I'll have in the description. So go check that out. And yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave this video. So peace out, guys.